a set of 700 stone discs in a Chinese cave covered in symbols some people insist describe a spaceship crash, a skull from Peru that one geneticist claimed came back with unknown DNA markers, and by the end of this list, an entire empire the internet insists was erased using mud. Some of these are real, and some are straight up internet conspiracy. Let's get into it. Great Zimbabwe, a massive stone city in southern Africa built starting around the 11th century, with walls up to 36 feet high, made from over 1 million granite blocks, stacked without any mortar, still standing 900 years later. Here is the actual controversy, and it's not really about the ruins, it's about the people who studied them. When European colonizers found the site in the 1800s, they refused to believe local African communities had built it. Rhodesian-era archaeologists and officials published theories crediting Phoenicians, Arabians, even the Queen of Sheba, anyone except the indigenous Shona people whose ancestors actually built it. The colonial government reportedly pressured archaeologists to suppress findings that credited local builders, because acknowledging it undermined the entire justification for colonial rule. Modern archaeology has settled this completely. It was built by local ancestors of the Shona people. No outside help required. The mystery was never really who built it. The mystery is how long people were willing to lie about it. 13 stone towers, evenly spaced, running along a ridge like teeth on a comb. Built roughly 2,300 years ago, they form what UNESCO recognizes as the oldest solar observatory in the Americas, a civilization tracking the sun's position across the horizon with enough precision to mark the exact days of solstices and equinoxes, centuries before anything comparable existed anywhere else on the continent. Here is what's new. In November 2025, archaeologists announced they'd found evidence of an even older solar-aligned structure at the same site, pushing back the timeline of organized astronomy in the Andes further than anyone had documented. Nobody knows the name of the civilization that first started tracking the sun here, or how they arrived at this level of precision without writing any of it down for future archaeologists to translate. 13 towers, still standing, still lining up with the sun exactly like they did over 2,000 years ago. For centuries, indigenous oral tradition in Honduras described a hidden city deep in the rainforest, sometimes called the White City, sometimes called City of the Monkey God, and it warned that anyone who disturbed it would be cursed. Explorers spent most of the 20th century searching for it and finding nothing. Then in 2012, a team flew LiDAR, laser mapping technology, over an unexplored stretch of jungle and picked up geometric shapes that shouldn't exist in undisturbed forest. Plazas, mounds, a pyramid. In 2015, a ground expedition confirmed it. It was real, an actual lost city untouched for centuries, exactly where legends said something was hidden. Here is the part that got picked up by the tabloids afterwards. Several members of that 2015 expedition, including the National Geographic writer who documented it, contracted a serious tropical disease within weeks of returning home. Doctors have a completely mundane explanation for that, but the legend obviously does not. It's your call which one you're gonna believe. Between roughly 16,000 and 6,500 BC, there was no North Sea separating Britain from mainland Europe. There was land, a real continuous land mass where people lived, hunted, and built settlements. Fishing trawlers have pulled up mammoth bones, ancient tools, and human remains from the seafloor for over a century. As sea levels rose after the last ice age, this entire country-sized region went underwater, and an unknown number of communities simply drowned with it. Here is the part that is brand new. In March of 2026, researchers from the University of Warwick published the first physical evidence that parts of Doggerland weren't just habitable. They had actual forests, thousands of years earlier than previously thought, even during the depths of the Ice Age. There is a lost world under the North Sea right now being slowly mapped for the first time. In 1986, workers in Sichuan province, China, digging for clay bricks, uncovered 2 pits packed with thousands of bronze artifacts unlike anything found anywhere else in ancient China, including bronze masks with squared jaws, enormous protruding eyes on stalks, and ears shaped like wings. Some some over 3 feet tall. The civilization that made them, now called the Shu Kingdom, isn't mentioned in any surviving Chinese historical text from that era. Nobody knows what these figures represent. Gods, ancestors, or something else entirely. Excavations have continued as recently as 2021, with new pits still turning up more of these faces, and archaeologists still can't fully explain the artistic style since it doesn't connect cleanly to any other Bronze Age culture in the region. The masks are real, they are in museums right now, and they still don't look like anything else on Earth from that time period. That's definitely not nothing. For centuries, ancient Arabian legend described Ubar, a wealthy trading city that vanished beneath the desert as punishment for its people's arrogance, sometimes called the Atlantis of the Sands. Most history treated it as pure myth. Then in the late 1980s, a team used NASA satellite imagery and space-based radar to trace ancient camel caravan trails across the Arabian desert, trails invisible from the ground, and followed them until they all converged on a single point near modern-day Shisir, Oman. They dug, they found the remains of a real fortified settlement, with evidence suggesting it did in fact partially collapse into an underground cavern, giving weight to the swallowed by the earth legend in a very literal, unromantic, geological way. Historians are still debating whether what they found is actually the specific city the legend describes, or just a real city the legend eventually attached itself to. Either way, there's genuinely a collapsed, lost city under the Arabian sand, found using space technology and camel routes, chasing a folktale. Adams Bridge, a 30-mile chain of limestone shoals and sandbanks stretching between India and Sri Lanka, clearly visible in NASA satellite photography. In Hindu tradition, it's called Rama's Bridge or Rama Setu, described in the epic Ramayana as a causeway built by Lord Rama's army to cross to Lanka. For years after, satellite images circulated online. A viral claim spread that NASA had confirmed the bridge was man-made. NASA has never made that claim. Geologists studying the formation say it's a natural chain of sandbars and coral shaped by shifting sediment over thousands of years. What's not actually disputed is that it's a real geological structure that lines up almost exactly with a route described in a text that's thousands of years old, and India's own space agency has spent real research time mapping the submerged structure in detail. Deep in Egypt's Sahara Desert, there's a stone circle called Nabta Playa. It was built roughly 7,500 years ago, which makes it the oldest known astronomically aligned monument on Earth, over 2,000 years older than Stonehenge. The people who built it tracked the summer solstice with real precision at a time when this part of the Sahara wasn't desert at all. It was a seasonal lake surrounded by a thriving community with cattle burials and organized settlements. Then, around 5,000 years ago, the climate shifted, the lake dried up permanently, and the people who built one of the most sophisticated ancient observatories on the planet scattered, likely migrating towards the Nile, where some researchers believe their astronomical knowledge may have gone on to influence early Egyptian civilization itself. Nobody knows their name, nobody knows what they called themselves, we just know that they figured out how to track the sun with stone thousands of years before anyone else did, in the middle of what's now one of the most hostile environments on Earth. This one is pretty brand new. In July of 2025, Peruvian archaeologist Dr. Ruth Shady unveiled Peniko, a roughly 3,800-year-old city belonging to Peru's Corral civilization, widely considered the oldest complex society in the Americas. Here is what makes this genuinely strange. Across everything excavated so far, there is no evidence of this civilization having warfare. No weapons, no defensive walls, no mutilated remains. At a time when nearly every other civilization on Earth was fortifying cities and arming itself, this one apparently wasn't, while still building monumental architecture, trading across vast distances, and functioning as a complex, organized society for centuries. Archaeologists genuinely don't have a full explanation for how or why. This city is actively being excavated right now in real time, and every new structure they uncover is adding to a civilization that may have figured out how to build an advanced society without ever needing to go to war over it. Historically, Tartari was simply an old, vague European term used on maps for a huge, poorly understood stretch of Central Asia, not a specific unified empire. That is the boring, real answer, but here is the online version. Starting in the mid-2010s, a growing internet theory claimed that Tartaria was actually a massive, technologically advanced global empire that its cities are still standing today, disguised as ornate 19th century buildings that mainstream history simply relabeled, and that this entire empire was deliberately erased using something called a mud flood, with governments burying the true evidence and rewriting the timeline. Historians and researchers who've studied it are unambiguous. There is no evidence any of this happened. The evidence cited is almost always ornate old buildings whose actual construction records exist and are well documented. So why does it keep spreading? Because for a lot of people, everything you were taught is a cover-up is a more satisfying story than this word appeared on old maps and stopped being used. I have no idea why that hits different for so many people, but it does, and that's exactly why it's #1 on a list about strange lost civilizations. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thanks so much for checking it out. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozlowski, and I will see you again soon. Bye!